joined now by John Whittle, who knows everything about everything related to Gamecocks and recruiting, even though he'll put that off on somebody else and say that's not really his cup of tea. But you got to be in the loop on everything right now, John. I know it's a busy season for you, but good morning.
No, I pretty much let JC and Hale and Tony still handle the recruiting stuff. Those are the voices on that one. I'll stick with some of the other things, but I did ponder coming out here dressed as what JC suggested earlier, a naked Eskimo, but decided against that. So it's
great.
It's a beautiful day here in Columbia. So we're doing okay down here.
Yeah, you look like you're about to hop on the golf course there, John. What are your plans today?
That'd be nice. Nice. I hadn't shaved yet, so I didn't figure I could put on a hoodie. There's only so many levels of homeless you can look. So I'm sitting here. I figured I needed to dress a little bit nice since I've got the ugly scruff going.
The scrub, man, that's good. Is that your backyard?
Yeah,
behind you.
What part of town do you live in?
You're at a different angle.
Yeah, I am in a little bit different angle because the sun is at a certain spot.
Yeah, I didn't know. That actually looks. It's a lot. That's a little bit. That's It's not. This is a better angle for your backyard, really.
Oh, you like that? Okay, well maybe we'll stay like this for next time.
Sweet.
Where are you? What part of town?
I'm over near Irmo High School.
Okay, and that's your backyard. Irmo can be pretty congested. You got a nice pice of land there.
Oh, man, he lives in a sweet place.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
You got a dog? You got a dog to roam that backyard?
There's two roaming around back there right now. They're small little guys, but they.
I see one. Yeah.
I was proud of them. There was a deer back there a few weeks ago, and they busted out of the back door to come out and chase the deer. I got these two little dogs that sent the deer going.
Nice.
But the deer hopped the chain link fence like it was nothing back there.
Oh yeah.
So look like JC back in his prime.
Back in his track and field days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I ran track one day and threw up. And I was in good shape too. I was a basketball football player. After basketball season, you do a lot of running in basketball.
Oh yeah.
They're like, all right, so time to run another mile, and I'm like, so not me. All right, so John, we'll start with basketball. There's a big game tomorrow night in Columbia. Challenging one for the Gamecocks. You've watched this team now win. I guess they've won 5 in a row. How did the Gamecocks match up with Clemson? What needs to be done to pull what I would consider to be an upset? Tomorrow night at the Colonial LIfe Arena.
Interesting matchup. I mean, I've watched Clemson a couple of times now, and their strengths are pretty evident. I mean, they've got a couple of big guys who can play on the perimeter and shoot. They've got a tough as nails point guard who's not scared to take on a shot. He's not scared to get in the paint. He's not scared to play defensively. I mean, those guys are the ones who stick out to me. Shefflin being the main guy. I mean, what he did was Kentucky, right? That they beat in the ACC Big SEC Challenge, and I mean Shefflin was phenomenal. He's really elevated his game from pretty good last year to really good this year. So, overtime versus Memphis the other day for the Tigers, really good game. But Memphis made a few more shots. But South Carolina, I think they match up at least okay. I do think that Clemson center, a transfer from Cincinnati, he's a little bit bigger and might be a little bit more assertive than Nick Pringle on as far as being a bigger body and might be able to out physical him a little bit, but we'll see on that. So, I think South Carolina is playing better. I don't think they're playing great, but I think they're playing better, especially on the defensive end. They've knocked down a few more shots in most of these games here lately, and that's going to make them a little bit more dangerous than what they looked, say, 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, the team is coming along, John. It's the physicality, though, coming in tomorrow that really kind of is eye opening, just because from what I've seen of Clemson this year, they really have been like just trying to out physical everybody on the court with them. So yeah, I'm glad you brought up the center there, because I think Pringle, and you're going to have to use CMB too to really kind of get down there if you're going to have any post production. Bang around with a guy that is used to doing it.
Yeah, and CMB versus Shefflin, I think, will be a pretty interesting matchup. Some of the skill that they want to do is pretty similar. I think Shefflin might get a little bit too far out under his skis a little bit and try to do a little bit too much from time to time, especially on the defensive end. Maybe gets out of position, but that man fights and he'll rebound as well as anybody in the country, and that'll be a pretty cool matchup to watch. So I think there's a lot of similarities between the two teams, and look forward to what should be a really, really good game tomorrow night. And hopefully it's a decent atmosphere.
Yeah. Want to keep Chase Hunter under wraps. I mean, I think he's their best overall player and a guy that is a matchup problem for most teams. So who draws the assignment for Carolina? It's really got to be a guard that's going to defend him for 30 minutes or so. But if you can keep him under wraps and, maybe make it a lower scoring game. This Carolina offense is still kind of finding its way. It doesn't have a ton of firepower. The guards are coming along. Jamari Thomas is playing much better. That's the guy they thought they got in the portal the last few games. The guy early on, that was a problem. But the guy who's really starting to come into his own, and you never know how long that transition is going to take. It's a new offense, it's a new culture, it's a new everything, and clearly the learning curve took a little extra time, but he's playing much better basketball.
Yeah, and I think that he'll match up pretty well with Hunter. I think their games are somewhat similar. I think Hunter. I think both of them play really physical and really hard, really on both ends, but certainly on the defensive end, and that's going to be fun to watch for both of those guys. So, I think some of the strengths and weaknesses are in some of the similar places on both of those teams, and going to provide some really fun matchups to watch.
Yeah, I think so. I think defensively, South Carolina's got to just. They've been getting better. It looks more like Lamont Paris style basketball in some games. Some games it doesn't. East Carolina, I thought it was kind of similar to Mercer and some of those. They weren't ugly wins, John. It just, I don't know. First half against Upstate. But at Boston College and against Virginia Tech, boy, Carolina guarded. And I think that's probably what it's just going to take a great effort on defense. And then, this team sometimes gets out rebounded. What are your thoughts on that, and how important is rebounding going to be tomorrow night?
Yeah, it's going to be really important because Clemson's pretty good on the glass. Shefflin's one of the best in college basketball. Without looking up the stats right now, I would have to venture that he's at least near the top of the ACC. And you're right, South Carolina, if they out rebound their opponent, it ain't by much. And some of these guys that they've been playing aren't that big. So this past Saturday, I think the rebound margin was +2 in favor of the Gamecocks, and that's really just not good enough against a team like that. So that's certainly something that Lamont Paris is going to have to emphasize to his team. I know he's done that in several games this year, and they've done a decent job on the glass. And it feels to me like this team isn't always great at self-starting. They need to be encouraged some. So hopefully this game is a little bit different for them, and it certainly should be. But I do think they're playing better. I think they're coming into their own a little bit. Knocking down shots is helpful for the psyche, and it's translating over to the defensive end some too, in terms of confidence on that side. But Jamari Thomas is certainly leading the way from the defensive standpoint. That guy sets the tone really, really well on that end of the court, and does a great job on the ball.
Shefflin's 12 rebounds a game, by the way. 12.
Jesus.
That's pretty. That's for
insane.
College, that's a pretty insane number.
They lost to Memphis the other day, though. I mean, they've lost.
Yeah, they did. I saw
they lost to Memphis.
Yep.
I don't know if that's good
At
or
home.
bad for Carolina. I think I've just been really impressed with Clemson basketball this year. I know nobody wants to hear me say that, but they're good. They're a good basketball team.
It was weird. It was an 11 a.m. tip on Saturday, and there was nobody in the stands, at least from a student section standpoint. It was barren. And I mean, I get it to some degree because it's either exams or probably the break up there. I would have to imagine it's the break, and most of the students have gone home. But you got to let people down there. I mean, it was rows and rows of empty seats right there, right there on the court, and it was a bad look in general. But also creates a bad atmosphere, and it's already going to be a challenging atmosphere at 11 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday too. So, I think that South Carolina will have a better crowd on Tuesday night in a pretty good crowd. I don't think it's going to be the raucous, rowdy environment that you might see if this game were played, the second week of January or something like that, or even the first week of December when students are still around. But it is what it is, and got to create the environment somehow. That's why they're selling $10 tickets right now.
It is what it is. Shoot. Yeah. Just got to go play. Yeah. That's surprising because Clemson, growing up in the upstate, the folks that live in Greenville, Spartanburg, Anderson, they'll go to Little John. I mean, but maybe we're just in a different, I'm just off. So
I would hope Tuesday night's a good crowd, but that's a whole.
It will be, but they're trying to sell the upper bowl out for $10 each. So.
Yeah, I mean the upper bowl is always going to be a tougher sell. By the way, I'll just say this: the SEC is 143-20. They have dominated every other conference in college basketball. I'm calling my shot on December 16th. The SEC will set an all-time record and get 12 bids to the Big Dance. 12.
I like the sound of that.
And point of reference on Carolina for those that are a little down for whatever reasons. Last two, I came from Tupelo, actually, where Mississippi State played. Old Will Wade. And they almost got knocked off by Will, who had a tournament team a year ago at McNeese. But the Mississippi State's made the NCAA tournament the last 2 years, going 8-10 in the SEC, because when the league's net ranking is good, that helps everybody. The league's net ranking has never been this good. So if you can somehow scrounge up 8-9 wins in conference play, you got a really good shot of making the Big Dance. I
mean, the Big Ten's done that a couple of times. I've seen them have a bunch of bids when they're up there.
That's right.
And then all their teams get knocked out in the first and second round.
That's right. Yeah.
So anyway, well, changing gears, John. So you reported today there's a Board of Trustees meeting tomorrow. Your expectations for that meeting? I know you probably. Nobody knows specifics on these things, but give us your speculation. What do you expect to happen? Obviously, it's football related or athletics related. Just kind of your take on what we can expect coming out of that meeting tomorrow.
Well, there's a whole lot on the Board of Trustees calendar that is not athletics related. So this is kind of their last meeting of the year, I guess, or last planned meeting. And there is one little line on out of probably there must have been 150 lines in there that with a football athletics contract. And I'll be honest, I'm not 100% sure what all to expect. Usually they have waited until after the season to do assistant coach contracts in bulk. They have addressed some assistant coaches who have maybe been offered jobs at other places before the bowl game but usually when they address things in bulk, it's usually in January or the very first of February. But you may be looking at a Mike Shula deal. You may be looking at a Shane Beamer made a comment last week that they're having to fight off some schools that are trying to hire their coaches. So, maybe you see another assistant here or there. Maybe you see Shane Beamer. They've addressed head coach contracts before bowl games before, and this may be something similar. I asked about a Shane Beamer contract last week and was told that one will happen, but I wasn't under the impression that it was going to be this quickly. So I need to make a few phone calls today, and maybe there'll be something a little bit more detailed on the Big Spur later. But the contract the language on the Board of Trustees announcement made it sound like it was contracts plural for football. So we'll see exactly what happens. I think Mike Shula is probably a pretty safe bet, and we'll see where it goes from there. But it hadn't been very standard to address assistant coaches across the board prior to the bowl game.
Yeah, you just never know nowadays. I have no idea. So transfer portal, we can talk about that a little bit, I guess. Your thoughts on how things are going and with it, and I don't know.
Yeah, well, I heard y'all first.
You hang on the bigspur.com too. What's the vibe, dude? What's the vibe?
Yeah, I heard. I was listening to the first segment and I got caught up listening, which is why I didn't shave before I got on here. I completely lost track of time. JC was like, "Oh, we got to go to a break," and I'm like, "Shoot, I gotta get moving. I can't go out there like the naked Eskimo that JC was talking about earlier." But no, it should be noted that players have 5 days after the conclusion of their season, if their bowl game is after the 28th, to go into the portal. So, South Carolina players will have an opportunity, I guess, until January 4th to be able to go into the portal. The problem with if you wait is that, schools fill up spots and there's already a bunch of good players out there. That doesn't mean that Texas A&M wouldn't take, one of the best safeties in the country if they could, even if they had filled up all their spots. They'll certainly find a way to make it work, I would think. But you limit some of your options if you wait until the end to go. I saw somebody, backup quarterback, I guess, from Penn State, went into the portal and was like, basically the timing of it, I have to go in now, even though we're in the playoffs, and I'm gonna keep practicing with the team and am committed to the program and until we're out. And it's I don't know. It's certainly a weird dynamic on all of this, but I've seen folks talk about needing to change the calendar, and there's just really not another way to do it, I don't think.
What's crazy is if you're on a playoff team that goes the distance, most schools have already started spring semester. It's January 20th. So most places have started their spring term by then. It's hard to enroll. I mean, the schools that care about football will make exceptions.
Yeah, and you're talking about a finite number of players at that point, too.
You're right.
I mean, what are you talking? Maybe, at the most, 15 players over two teams that are going to a national championship game? Maybe. I don't know, but it's still, regardless, you're right. It is a challenge. Some schools start their terms, the first week of January. Yeah. And others are later. I had a buddy who went to Stanford and they didn't start until the end of January, so that one was unique. That was back 10 years ago. But so I don't know how they're doing it now. But it's timing can become a challenge, whether it's from a recruiting standpoint or academic calendar standpoint. I don't know of any other way to do it. It's just something that you have to deal with.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's just like a kind of a fact of life. I got what the Penn State quarterback was saying, but they played this weekend. Did it have to be this week before the game? A lot of distraction there. And honestly, nobody wants to talk about this, but a lot of this stuff is handled between agents and collectives for now. Until July 1st, at least, in my opinion, before guys even get in the portal. And so I didn't understand that, but I'm not disagreeing with him. I'm just saying that, Who knows? Who knows? All right, John. Any parting shots from you this week on Whittle on all things? You've got a fan club out here on YouTube, man, because your segments, we always chop them up and put them up, and they get mad views. So
it's just my mom rewatching it over and over
and over again. Oh,
thanks, Mom.
Good work, Mom.
Trust me, there's no fan club, and there shouldn't be. But no, I'm curious to see how these next few weeks go. I'm really curious to see how January goes with Jeremiah Donati coming in and getting his feet wet and kind of getting things going on January 2nd. There's so much that's going to happen over the next month and a half that just kind of sets the stage for next year, whether it's football bringing in players from the portal, whether it's a new athletics director coming in. Look, South Carolina's got a really, really challenging start to the basketball schedule in conference play. Certainly tomorrow night is a big deal, and in the start of conference play is a lot of challenging games. So this next month and a half is going to be pretty cool to follow for South Carolina athletics.
I agree. I'm with you. I think it's we're going to know a lot of the unknowns by the end of middle of February or so. And I hope one of the knowns is the basketball team has a chance to get to the tournament. I think because football season went so daggum well, this is the first year in a long time where I haven't breathed a sigh of relief after the Clemson game, win or lose. Like, I'm tired of watching these guys play and sweating every week. I actually enjoyed watching this team play, but I enjoyed watching the basketball team last year. I can't say the same about this season, so hopefully that turns around. All right, John, we're getting a break. You rock and roll.
Appreciate you guys. Always great being on.
Take care, Whittle.
Same to you, John.
Thanks, John. Mm-hmm.